Welcome to the SK Newsline in Newscast. I'm your presenter, Andre Huey. Former Chief Medical Officer Dr. Patrick Martin believes there will be some serious consequences emanating from the current 24-hour lockdown that the country is experiencing. More in this report. The current lockdown measures in St. Kitts and Nevis will have psychological, social and financial consequences that we will see in its aftermath, says former Chief Medical Officer Dr. Patrick Martin. In an exclusive interview with SK Newsline, Dr. Martin reiterated his views posited through this media house weeks ago, before the lockdown came into effect, that a lockdown would exacerbate an already bad situation.
We have to continue to prepare for a mounting burden of mental illness, anxiety, panic, depression, plus domestic violence, which has already increased according to official data. So the public has to prepare for more unfavorable statistics, and we need to hear from the authorities what more is being done to prevent and control. We know that non-government people took the initiative to distribute care packages to persons in quarantine, in the care of the government, whose nutritional needs were not being attended to.
Dr. Martin is of the view that the number of COVID-19 cases were in decline before the lockdown was implemented, and there was no need to introduce a 24-hour lockdown, as is the case currently.
I support a partial curfew with essential shops and other businesses open, subject to protocols. It is clear, looking at the trends, that the 24/7 lockdown was imposed after there was a downward trend in the daily count, which means that the 6 to 5 curfew, the 8 to 5 curfew, and yes, the 11 to 5 curfew plus school closures plus non-pharmaceutical measures were taking effect before the 24/7 lockdown was imposed. So that is my reading of the graph.
The Ministry of Health reported 25 positive results within the last 48 hours and no new recovered case. As of Monday, July 5th, St. Kitts and Nevis has recorded 515 positive cases, of which 275 are active cases, 237 recovered, and 3 deaths. 497 of those cases were recorded in St. Kitts, while 18 on Nevis. Andre Huey, SKN Newsline. The ever-shifting positions on the restart of cruise tourism seems to be at an end, and St. Kitts and Nevis might be changing its own requirements. More from SK Newsline's Glenn Bart.
From cruise line operators to cruise destinations such as St. Kitts and Nevis, there is much eagerness to have Caribbean cruise tourism restarted. The Florida Caribbean Cruise Association has been supporting a restart by mid-July 2021 and has been engaging its members through a series of symposia to help cruise executives deal with the necessities of restarting. The United States Center for Disease Control has shut down cruising from U.S. ports since 2020 and has provided, in more recent times, clearer guidelines for restarting cruising. It is well known that cruise lines have been pressuring the U.S. federal government to allow a restart as early as the end of July 2021. Royal Caribbean Group Chairman and CEO Richard Fain described recent discussions with the CDC as constructive and progressive, saying the industry can now see a pathway to a healthy and achievable return to cruising based on advances in medical science and vaccines. In a recent NEOC COVID-19 briefing, SKN Newsline questioned if new protocol arrangements will be put in place to facilitate the restart of cruise tourism in St. Kitts and Nevis. At this point, not much detail was provided.
We are also reviewing all protocols, which also include protocols for the cruise. And so in due time, the information will be shared in terms of the revised protocols for cruise, persons traveling in, as well as how we continue to live with COVID-19 as well.
In what is a highly competitive industry, it is clear that for the short term, cruising will be an altered experience for passengers involving some risk, even with the requirement of a high level of vaccination for crew and passengers. Glenn Bard reporting for SKN Newsline.
When we come back, a Caditian leads a women's leadership group. Elliot's Funeral Parlor is the first licensed embalmer in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. We have a friendly and professional staff. At Elliot's Funeral Parlor, we offer a wide range of packages from $6,500, homegoing service at chapel, locally made caskets, tailoring of outfit for deceased of your choice, wake, overnight with slideshow, funeral, death announcement, obituary, booklets, family pin-ons, memorial books, preparation of funeral arrangements, wreath, fresh and artificial. For further information, call 469-3298, 664-2007, or 660-0186. Elliot's Funeral Parlor in Gingerland, Nevis. Dedicated to those we serve.
When you need electronics or appliances, find just what you want quickly in one location. Yes, everything's under one roof. Only at Smart Electronics. We have tons of name brands, amazing service, and easy layaway plans. Summer is just around the corner, and we will save you the hassle of walking around town or going to St. Martin. We have everything you need right here in St. Kitts, so don't get confused and go different places. We are located at Port Zonte opposite the food court. Visit us today, or if you have any questions, you can call 466-4271. Smart Electronics, way to live a smart life. Terms and conditions apply.
Where will we go when the quarantine thing done and everybody touch road?
Auto Plus Car Wash, located on the College Street Gut, Bastyr, St. Kitts. Bring your car to Auto Plus Car Wash to remove water stains, wiper marks. Get your doors, roof panel cleaned, seat floor mats, buffing, headlights, and engine wash. You get quality service at the best price at Auto Plus Car Wash. They really care for your car. Call 765-5140 or visit them on the College Street Gut, Bastyr, St. Kitts. Auto Plus Car Wash, where the service is number one. Welcome back. A Caditian is at the helm of a regional women's group supported by the U.S. Embassy to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. More from SK Newsline's Jacinthia Teixeira.
Desi Brown from St. Kitts and Nevis will spearhead the leadership team of the Regional Organization of Women in Leadership, ROWL, which has been entrusted by the U.S. Embassy of Barbados and the OECS to coordinate the second cohort of their successful Women in Politics Leadership Institute, WIPLI program for 2021. Brown will serve as project coordinator, supported by Jessica St. Rose, marketing and media coordinator, Kadia Flores, legal expert, Nia Brathwaite, communications liaison, and Deborah Francis, monitoring and evaluation coordinator. Earlier this year, the U.S. Embassy announced an open competition for eligible candidates to submit applications to plan and execute the 2021 Women in Politics Leadership Institute program. The program was conceptualized by the U.S. Embassy in an effort to encore and execute the 2021 WIPLI program. The program was conceptualized by the U.S. Embassy in an effort to encourage female participation in politics and government in the Caribbean. Young women in the Eastern Caribbean are afforded the opportunity to develop their skills to increase their personal involvement in civic participation, including community organizing and elections. According to a press release from ROWL, they seek to equip women with the necessary training and mentorship to become strategic and resilient global leaders. It was founded by 5 alumni of the inaugural Women in Politics Leadership Institute cohort in 2020. ROWL is a strong team of experts in economics, political science, international law, mediation, creative arts, human rights, and journalism. Collectively, ROWL has a track record of participating in and coordinating complex regional efforts involving diverse stakeholders, including UNESCO, UN Women, UNDP, UNHRC, IDB, World Bank, OAS or ECS, Royal Commonwealth Society, Outright International, PANCAP, and British High Commission, Bridgetown. The second WIPLI cohort is expected to commence on August 16, 2021 for the duration of 6 weeks. Applications will be open soon. For more information, follow ROWL and the U.S. Embassy on social media. I am Justin Tishero for SKN Newsline.
The Ministry of Education is preparing to establish a national teaching council.
The Ministry of Education, through the support of UNESCO, held a virtual meeting with department heads and other valuable stakeholders to discuss issues related to the establishment of National Teaching Council, NTC, as part of the professionalization of the teaching force. The July 5th meeting continues a series of consultations on behalf of Dr. Steve Wakioche, consultant, with the aim of developing a regulatory framework and operational guidelines for the establishment of the National Teaching Council and producing a draft operational guideline for the established National Teaching Council. This is outlined in the 2017 through 2021 Education Sector Plan, Policy Goal 13.2. The establishment of an NTC will ensure more coherent oversight and regulation of teaching and teacher education within the Federation as it fosters high standards in the teaching profession. Consultations will continue with other stakeholders and teachers in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Dr. Steve Wakioche, Professor Wakioche, is the Emeritus Director of Professional Operations at the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, TRCN, a statutory agency of the Federal Ministry of Education that regulates teaching for the pre-primary to university levels in Nigeria. The meeting was chaired by Dr. Tricia Esdale, Senior Assistant Secretary in the Ministry of Education.
When we come back, regional news.
The SKN Newsline website now offers you more news. Log on to www.sknnewsline.com for local, regional, and international news. You can also watch the latest newscast and keep abreast with news in sports, all from sknnewsline.com. That's www.sknnewsline.com. News at your fingertips.
It's the new and improved SKN Newsline Android mobile app. With the SKN Newsline app, you can watch your news reports, the SKN Newsline newscast, sports, special features, and so much more. You can also send us a WhatsApp or call us directly. Go in the Google Play Store, search SKN Newsline, and download the app today. The SKN Newsline mobile app. News on the go. Welcome back. For the big stories in regional news, we now have our Caribbean news segment. The price tag of damage to crops is still being finalized in Jamaica. Reporter Kelisha Williams visited farmlands in St. Catherine, Jamaica, which were devastated by Tropical Storm Elsa. More from TVJ News in Jamaica.
Now, as we mentioned earlier, the price tag for damage to crops is still being finalized. But our reporter, Kelisha Williams, visited farmlands in St. Catherine, which were devastated by Tropical Storm Elsa.
The flood waters which covered the island's road on Sunday may have dried up, but in farming communities like Salt Pond, St. Catherine, the problem lingers, leaving farmers frustrated.
More than worried because it's not good. It's not good. The rain don't even fall for one day good yesterday.
But even as the farmers are concerned about the flooding, that's the least of their problems. The dirt road, which is the only route to the farm, is saturated, and the once solid ground is like sinking sand.
Stuck early this morning, around after 7, right? And I was here, couldn't get out until my other farmer friend, Mr. Garden, came along and he pulled me out. And while it took me over 3 hours before, and get out, it tear up my bumper.
I think one of the main reasons why this section is like this, it's used to have a drain from up there coming down, and they make a road for you to go on the farm, and I think that's eliminate that drain. So the water become a problem now.
Now, this is as bad as it gets. It's been over 2 hours now, and this farmer behind me has been trying to get to his farm, but his vehicle is stuck right here in the mud. Now, what you're witnessing is the desperate attempt to set him free. And as it turns out, this vehicle now is actually stuck.
Well, what happened, I decided to visit my farm today because yesterday I went to the country, so I come in back and decided to visit my farm because a lot of rain and stuff, I need to know what's going on. So when I reach here, I see Mr. Blake stuck, so I pull him out, and then I say, all right, let me chance it because my vehicle is a 4x4.
Now, on a day like today, dozens of workers would have been in the fields harvesting crops, but the poor road conditions have set back those plans.
I have popped out to reap now on Kalalo. I have Skellion will be ready in a couple of weeks on time.
But this farmer was willing to brave the mud and reap his cucumbers because he feared they would have spoiled in the field.
It's a long time I don't walk barefoot, right? And this is very hard.
Great loss, because we have around 2 acres of cucumber, corn, about 3 acres, and melon and pumpkin. It's a great loss.
So on a day like today, what would happen?
A day like today, we show the reaping right now. And as I can see, only one person reaping, and we don't even know how we are go out the road with this stuff.
It's a treacherous journey. One that usually takes about 7 to 8 minutes is now a 30-minute ride. It's almost insurmountable for this 4-wheel drive Ford Ranger.
These are the same farmers who were relocated here from Bernard Lodge by the government to facilitate the Greater Bernard Lodge Development Project. The farmers have since been promised compensation for crops they lost due to the eviction, but that matter is still in the court. Now they're appealing for plans to fix the road to be expedited.
It's like you take a man off in bed and put him in a ant's nest.
Kelisha Williams, TVJ News.
A number of public buildings, including school buildings, were devastated by Hurricane Elsa in St. Lucia. The roof of one of the blocks of the Bocage Secondary School was destroyed. HTS TV in St. Lucia reports.
Chief Education Officer Dr. Fiona Philip-Meyer has commended the members of the community who sprang into action after Hurricane Elsa blew off the rooftop of the Bocage Secondary School. The Category 1 tropical cyclone blasted the island with merciless winds and driving rain on Friday, July 2nd, 2021. With just a few days removed from the end of the school term, an image of the learning institution's plants with the top floor of one of its partially collapsed blocks exposed to the elements tells the tale of the storm's fury.
As we work towards the 9th of July closure, the official close, we just want to thank all of the people on the ground. And I must in a special way mention the community people from the Bocage area who really saw that there was an emergency. They came together, they rallied with the school in terms of bringing the school back, so much so that as of this morning we could have opened the Bocage Secondary School to serve our students and to serve the community.
Bocage Secondary was among a number of school buildings impacted by the tropical cyclone.
Well, we had to deal with school closures as per individual school needs. We have a few of our schools, particularly in the Sufra area, where water was impacted. So as of today, that school had to remain closed. In District 7, we have 4 primary schools that suffered a lot of water damage and debris, so it had to be cleaned up. But what we looked at were individual schools and what their needs were. For the most part, all of the cleanup happened on the weekend, so our students were able to come in. And for example, at the Viewfort Primary School, we had part of the roofing of one of the buildings being lifted. So we've cordoned off that area. So it's really working with our building people, our technical officers on the ground, our health and safety officer, our education officers, to make sure that we can offer, up until the 9th of July, a safe environment for everybody, our students and our staff.
The school plants also serve as disaster shelters. Moreover, authorities were concerned about the impacts on CXC examinations. Despite the damage to property, education officials are grateful there were no casualties in the school system.
We continue to work in terms of assessing on the ground, water supplies to our schools, feeding programs, electricity. We must in such a big way thank Lucia, who has been on the ground up to last night. We were very concerned that some of our schools may not have had electricity for CXC examinations, but as of 8:30 this morning, we were fine to go for all established regional examinations. We also have been working collaboratively with NEMO in terms of shelter management, but again, we're very pleased that it hasn't impacted the community in such a way so that the shelters have not been needed at this time.
The Chief Education Officer says that although officials do not anticipate any further school closures as of Tuesday, July 6, 2021, authorities will disseminate information on possible changes in plans to the public. Joachim de Plessis, HTS News Force.
Tropical storm Elsa is on its way to the U.S. state of Florida after its destructive path wreaking havoc in the Caribbean. Cuban officials had evacuated 180,000 people as a precaution against the possibility of heavy flooding from a storm that already battered several Caribbean islands, killing at least 3 people. Al Jazeera reports.
Storm Elsa made itself felt as it cut its way through central Cuba. Local authorities had already moved 180,000 people from its path to safety.
You don't know if the winds will take the roof or not, but it's better to be here sheltered in a place where you can take care of your children.
The storm slowly moved north towards the capital, where preparations were underway.
I've stored up water and prepared food. I've got lanterns and a backup cooker in case the gas goes. And I also have my neighbours who are willing to help me if I have any problems.
Ahead of storm surges, others improvised solutions.
This wall is for the water. Sometimes when the sea overflows, the water can come up many blocks and get into the houses. This stops the water getting in.
Many living by the capital's sea walk moved out for the night.
We're moving because the building is falling. You need to move now because with the storm that's coming, things are grim. As us Cubans say, you need to move, and that's how we keep on going.
With many of Havana's buildings now old and in need of repair, tropical storms in Cuba can often be fatal. The government's answer is to focus on prevention, moving those in structurally unsound accommodation into relatives' houses or to state shelters. It's this level of planning that has helped keep deaths from storms in Cuba to a minimum. And the government will be keen to avoid significant material damage it simply cannot afford to replace. Ed Augustin, Al Jazeera, Havana.
"28 people are feared dead in a plane crash in Russia's Far East. The plane lost contact with air traffic control and failed to land as scheduled at the Kamchatka Peninsula." Al Jazeera's Fintan Monahan reports.
Wreckage is being recovered far and wide as Russian aviation officials try to piece together what happened. Some debris from the crash was found on a mountainside in the far eastern region of Kamchatka. More pieces were fished out of the sea. Other parts of the plane were found about 5 kilometers from the airport's runway in the town of Polana.
Today, a plane following the route from Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky to Polana crashed. The tragedy is said to have occurred during the landing. Presumably, the plane was making a second approach and visibility was poor.
Air traffic control lost contact as the plane neared its destination. Heavy fog may have caused the plane to go off course. A criminal investigation is underway. But the plane's owner says everything was technically sound before takeoff. Local officials have partially backed this up, confirming no problems were detected with the Russian-made Antonov aircraft before it departed.
The aircraft was made in 1982. It has a valid certificate of airworthiness. The crew passed a pre-flight inspection. Currently, search and rescue activities are underway.
All 28 people on board are believed dead, but so far no bodies have been recovered. A local leader and 2 children were among the passengers. The rugged terrain around Polana is making the search a slow and arduous process. The area where the wreckage was found is difficult to access, especially as night falls. Fintan Monaghan, Al Jazeera.
Welcome back now to Saturday Sports Special. Inconsistent. Former Senior Doping Control Officer with the Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission, JADCO, Dr. Paul Wright, says that the comments made by embattled U.S. sprinter Shakira Richardson and the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency don't match. More in this report. U.S. sprinter Shakira Richardson apologized on Friday after confirmation came that she had returned an adverse analytical finding, a story first reported by the RJR Gleaner Group. But the comments Richardson made while speaking on the Today Show on NBC on Friday aren't consistent with the statement put out by the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency, USADA, according to former JADCO Doping Control Officer Dr. Paul Wright.
Because she said she used it during the trials because of how she was coping emotionally with the death of our biological mother. So she said it was used during the trials, you know. And USADA said it was used out of competition, so I'm not sure how that goes.
USADA's statement said Richardson was given a 1-month suspension because the drug had been used out of competition. But Dr. Wright says the level of the substance reportedly contained in her sample suggests otherwise.
It is a lot. It indicates that the drug was used on the day of competition. Because, as you know, as I was pointing out earlier, marijuana is fat soluble. It stays in the body for much longer. You know, you inhale it, it goes through the lungs into the bloodstream and is excreted by the kidneys into the urine. And it goes through all that system. Now, to get that amount of marijuana in the urine, you must have been using it on the day of competition, and you couldn't be a chronic user.
Dr. Wright says as of now, the substance in question isn't considered a masking agent, but that investigations are being made into that possibility.
There's no evidence for that, but it is being investigated. Because, as I tell you, what is peculiar is that you know that this drug is you can use this drug. But if you use it on the day of competition, you are banned. Why would somebody use it on the day of competition? And that is where the research is going.
The USADA statement also said 21-year-old Richardson's suspension started on June 28 after she tested positive for carboxy-THC, the main psychoactive constituent of cannabis. Richardson's sanction sees all her performances from the U.S. trials, where she won the 100 meters, being disqualified, ruling her out of the individual 100 for the Olympics as per USA track and field rules. She could, however, be eligible to run in one of the relay events following her sanction at the discretion of USA track and field.
And that will do it for this edition of the SK Newsline Newscast. For more stories, log on to our website, www.sknewsline.com. From all of us here at SK Newsline and at Channel 95, I'm Andre Huey. Thank you for watching.